Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Everything eosDAC. I'm Brandon Cummings, a content creator and member of the eosDAC community. The purpose of this show is to bring you the latest updates on eosDAC, discuss relevant topics with DAC members, and facilitate the engagement and growth of the community. In today's episode, we have Andrew Furmanczyk from the eosDAC launch team on. So without further ado...
Hey guys, I have Andrew Furmanczyk with me today from the eosDAC launch team. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure. So let's start things off by having our audience get to know you a bit. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got started with eosDAC?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Andrew Furmanczyk. I'm 31 years old. I live in Canada. I first got started with eosDAC back in the kind of like early mid-spring time before the airdrop happened. How I got involved was I'd been actually involved in, I guess, an investor in the cryptocurrency space for a while. And I'd taken a really kind of deep interest into DACs. And I was already on Steemit when EOS was announced. So I first heard about EOS right when it launched. So I followed the project really closely and got super interested in DACs in general. And then when I heard about eosDAC's project, I started following them as well. Then I guess I just caught the attention of some of the people on the team, and then they invited me into the launch team. And so, yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
That's awesome. Yeah, you've been in with them for a while at least. I have another question for you. What excites you about DACs? So you came across this project, and like what excited you to actually make you want to spend the time to work with these people, to work with eosDAC?
Okay, so that's an awesome question, actually. What got me excited, man? Okay, so you have to kind of know a little bit about my background. Is growing up, I had this view that was given to me by my culture around me that I guess like businesses in general, like rich people are evil and all this stuff. And like, oh, you don't want to be rich or whatever, because, you know, you're just going to be a bad person or whatever. And so, you know, business and capitalism and all that was really bad, which, was obviously a falsehood. What I ended up realizing was that business was how you made, it's like basically an engine or a vehicle for driving change in the world. And so, I really care about making a better world for everyone that we live in. And so I started to learn about business probably, close to a decade ago, started to learning about it and getting super interested in the topic of business. And there's still some limitations in the current business world. So like, just the way capitalism is with, shareholders expecting profit and growth at the cost of anything else just seems quite unsustainable to me. And it doesn't create, it doesn't create the world that I want to live in, essentially. So what got me excited about DACs in general is just that there's so many possible new use cases that you can apply them to. It's like a business 2.0. So I want to use DACs to drive social change, growth, innovation, just in general, a better world for everyone. And I know that sounds quite utopian, and, I'm not going into this with rose-colored glasses either. I know that whenever you have something new, you might have the best intentions and it can still work out poorly. So that's partly why I wanted to be involved, is that I want to put in the work and the time to make sure, to the best of my ability, that DACs turn out to be a positive for humanity rather than a negative.
I see. That's a great answer. I do have a question that, as you were mentioning that our audience might have. What is it about a DAC that could make that happen versus like traditional structures? Like why don't we see more of this like today already?
Well, I think the technology thing is the thing that's been holding us back the most. Like before we had on-chain governance and crypto, like tokenomics, and just the new abilities that blockchain unlocks for us. We kind of hit some of the limits that we could do with paper-based organizations. And so by now having a system where you can have tokens that can align the incentives of both the users and the extractors of value and the value creators, this completely changes the way it turns it from what used to be an adversarial relationship. I want as much value for as little money as possible, and the other person wants to get paid as much while basically producing the least possible. Now you create a situation where both of them are trying to raise the value of the token together. So I think that's the core reason. It was a technological reason that imposed economic limitations.
Okay, well, that's a fantastic answer. It sounds like you've thought a lot about this stuff like this. So
sometimes I can't sleep because I think about DAX too much. My wife is like, "Can you just go to sleep?" And I'm like, "But DAX."
Someone in the audience is going to make a meme about that.
Oh God.
All right. So, okay. Interesting. So, let's say everything goes smoothly. What does eosDAC look like 3 years from now?
Smoothly. Well, that should be fun. Almost no projects in crypto go smoothly. So this is a very optimistic answer, I'd say, or question.
Very much.
Yeah. So I'd say if everything goes totally smoothly, we're one of the top block producers on the EOS chain, continuously driving innovation and servicing the EOS community extremely well. I think that we are a thought leader for DAX across the world, basically, where we've kind of trailblazed the path to enable more DAX to go to market. I also think that we would have produced, a very hefty toolkit to enable like turnkey DAX solutions for organizations and dApps. Just like if you create an app, like an app, right? You're usually going to put that app inside a corporation, right? You're not going to physically, like if you're the creator of Twitter, you're not going to do Twitter as a sole proprietorship. It just doesn't work like that. So with all these dApps coming out, it's like, are we going to put dApps inside corporations, or are we going to put them inside DAX? And I think the answer is clearly we're going to need to put them in DAX one day. So another thing that would be great that's outside of our control is that DAX would gain legal status and recognition through existing nations. That'd be huge for success, just for adoption. But those are just some of them. I guess in general, it's going to be an interesting 3-year ride.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of steps between now and then. I'm sure it's going to be a fun and bumpy road at the same time.
Yep.
So that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, how can a DAC define if it's successful or not?
Okay, well, this I think is going to be different for every person because everyone has a different definition of what success looks like. But I think a general thing that you can actually blanket wrap across everyone is that the DAC is making the day-to-day world that we live and breathe and touch and live our lives in better. So that means more freedom for people, like less control and shackles over their life, more community, more engagement with other people, and being able to drive change and become part, like let's say there's DAX for any different cause you can imagine, and you can just jump in and get to work. I think that, giving that inclusivity that, doesn't exclude people from participation is, a big success metric. But like I said, the really big driving one for me is just that it affects the everyday life in a positive way. So if the sunshine is brighter and the parks are greener and everyone's happier and just general the world is working in a better way with less greed and inefficiency and corruption, then I think DAX have been successful.
Beautiful. So Andrew, if you had, unlimited funding, like what's a DAC, just to give our audience an example, what's a DAC that you would like to see in the world? Like it could be something you would create, something you would like to fund. What's something you think?
Well, actually,
you could use?
I don't know if I would create it myself because there's been a few people that have already started stuff like this. So, but the topic is on the preservation of life in our universe. And this is a huge topic, obviously, but, when we have threats of AI or like AI taking over or robots or even just existential threats like meteors slamming into Earth or gamma ray bursts, etc. Obviously, some of those are not in our control at this time. But there's an author who wrote Life 3.0, which is a great book. And his name's Max Tegmark, and he founded an institution called the Future of Life Institute, and he actually got funding from Elon Musk as well. So something like what he's doing, but in a DAC, so anyone can participate. And I think there might be a project in Germany starting up called Meta DAC that is aiming to hopefully do this, but they're still in the early stages, so it's not like they've begun yet. So if there was unlimited funding, I think that there's no real better cause than making sure life continues. So
yeah, I mean, that sounds like a DAC that literally everyone should be interested. We should have 7 billion DAC members for preserving life on Earth.
Except for the people who just like, you know what, I'm done with life. Right?
Yeah, I know those are out there too. They're like, if I had the button, I would just, boom, let's just clean the slate. But there's a lot of people that want to see things flourish. Like let's see what happens, see where this thing goes.
Yeah, and I'm definitely in the camp where I want life to continue, if it isn't obvious.
Same here, man. Okay, so I have one more personal question for you before we move on to our main topic today. When you're not working and doing stuff for eosDAC, and I'm sure you have other projects going on, what do you like to do for fun?
Oh yeah, oh man, I don't get to do that a lot these days. I've got a 1.5-year-old son right now. His name's Leon, and so usually for fun, we go to the park. We kind of lately we've been playing frisbee, and he kind of just runs at the frisbee, and then I go over and catch it. So usually, right now, I usually play with my son. But when I'm not doing that, if he's napping or something, I like gaming as well. Like I really like City Skylines. Where it's like a simulation game where you build cities, and it's really, really highly technical. There's very, very challenging puzzles to solve with traffic problems and getting people from here to there. And I know it doesn't sound super exciting, but I find the challenge of it exciting. And then I also like to read audiobooks a lot too, or not really read them, but listen to audiobooks and read regular books too. I also play piano because obviously my background is as a piano teacher originally. I started piano when I was 5, and I've got a channel on YouTube with over 300 or close to 400,000 subscribers that deals with music education.
That's awesome, man. Sounds like you have a lot going on. That's it. That sounds like a cool game too. I mean, you've got on the one hand in your work, you're talking about how do I build communities around a decentralized platform, and then in your playtime you're building physical cities. That's pretty cool.
It's really fun, and there's so many things you can do with it too. It's a really deep game. You can spend like so much time. It's ridiculous. But I play other games too, but that's what's been taking up my time the last little while here. I really like that game.
I'll have to check it out. So let's go ahead and move on to the main topic today, which is going to be custodian voting. That's kind of the main thing that's going to be coming up very soon that I'm sure our audience is interested in hearing about. So, and one of the things I wanted to make the audience aware of is that we need 20% of you guys voting, so that way the DAC can fully launch, so we can hand it over to the new custodian team and they can, protect our rights and, things can start functioning. So, Andrew, I'm just curious, what do you think are some incentives that we can create for people to vote, like during that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, we do need that 20% to fully launch. So we're going to need a lot of voter participation to get that going. So I think some of the first, most obvious incentives are just that you want the DAC to actually function. Like you are holding eosDAC tokens, so you automatically want them to have value, and they're not going to have value if you don't vote and you don't get this thing launched. So I think right away that's a really great incentive. It's like, hey, if you don't vote, your tokens will be worthless. So you might want to do that. Just saying.
Yeah.
Besides that, I think obviously one of the other things is, to be a registered member, you have to agree to the Constitution. And then once you are a registered member, you get benefits. So benefits being potential distribution payouts, also like partnerships or like getting, I think probably the biggest one that people are looking for is like getting paid out from block production rewards or revenue etc. from the DAC. So you won't be
that gets asked a lot.
Yeah. So that's definitely probably the biggest question that we get, asked consistently, is like, when are the payouts going to start happening? And then you have to remind people that, like, look, this is a DAC, a brand new type of organization that we're literally like building from the foundation up. And as soon as we possibly can, we will do that. So, I kind of, I think that's probably one of the bigger incentives for people to vote, is because they're going to want that distribution payout. So if you're just holding the tokens, but you don't actually, vote, it looks like you won't be getting payouts unless you register those tokens. So
yeah, payouts, and also just little things too, like just being able to submit a worker proposal as well. That's another perk of having your membership. So
yeah,
I agree. There's definitely some incentives there for people to vote. So I'm hoping that, within a reasonable amount of time, we can hit that 20%.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't take too long. EOS took what was it, about a week? I remember.
Yeah, I think so.
I remember watching it go over the percentage, and then the big, like on EOS Authority, it started doing like fireworks on the page, like confetti. And I was like, yay. It was so awesome. Felt surreal, kind of like, to see it finally launching.
Yeah, we'll have to have some celebration metrics for eosDAC, something in Discord channel, some fireworks going off in there.
Oh yeah. Maybe we'll just we'll charter another car to be launched into space called the DAC car for Elon Musk to launch into space.
eosDAC car, that'd be cool.
Yeah. It's DAC-tastic.
It's DAC-tastic.
Anyway.
There goes another meme.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, getting back to a little bit more seriousness here. So how can we define the role of a custodian, and like what kind of skill sets do you think they should possess?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so I think looking at the name or the term custodian, right? Like, it's to take care of, or to basically defend and maintain something. So they are the guardians of the DAC. They are there to protect the best interests of the DAC, to take care of it, to help it grow. So the main interest of a custodian is what worker proposals they approve or deny. So I've been lucky enough to be part of this organization. It's a national organization, but there's local branches in every city, like major area. It's called Community Futures. And so it's where basically the government gives money to help economic development of new businesses in the cities. And so I'm part of two panels. One is the savings and the finance and loan committee. Sorry, I got it mixed up. And then the other one is the business plan review committee. And both committees, basically people submit these 100-page detailed proposals to us about what they'd like to do, like to build a business, to do these different things. And then we go around and we discuss these things for up to like an hour sometimes. These very highly detailed applications, like sometimes dealing in the millions of dollars. So something that I've learned from that I think is going to be fairly similar to the custodian's job is that it really helps to have a diverse set of backgrounds and skills at the table. Because if everyone there is just one type of person, like let's say everyone is an accountant or everyone is a coder or everyone is a lawyer, all of their views are going to be the same. But if you have a diverse set where, someone's like a coder, someone's a finance person, someone's a business major, someone's an educator, someone is a community builder, you have a whole bunch of different diverse views that all come together. And then when consensus is reached, you can be a little bit more confident that a good decision was made.
I like that. So guardians of the DAC, which I love, with diverse backgrounds, whose main role is approving or denying worker proposals.
Yeah, I think that's essentially what it is, what it boils down to, in my mind at least.
Cool. So I have another question for you. If you were to run on some policies as a custodian yourself, what are some things you would like to push to see happen?
Yeah. So I definitely have thought about this as I've been working with eosDAC, if I wanted to run as a custodian or not. And I've come to the conclusion that I do really want to have a part in shaping how DACs develop. And I do think my experience kind of with the previous committees and then also my involvement in the space and with the launch team itself seems to make sense. So I think I'm a good fit as a custodian. So I'll be running as a custodian, and my main kind of policy platform, whatever you want to call it, is I definitely want to support healthy payouts for the community, because I think that's the number one thing everyone's going to want to know is like, are you pro or against payouts? My stance is this: like, you look at it like like early startup companies need more investment off the bat. Like if you buy a Google stock right now, you do not get any dividends. All you get is the appreciation of the Google stock. So those are growth stocks. So right. So most early stage startups don't even start paying out their investors for years. Like if you're a VC and you do a seed round on a company, you're probably looking at payback in like 7 years. So I don't expect us to be bleeding out like 80% of our revenue back out to the token holders, because that just doesn't make any sense. Like then there's no like economic way to compound that and make more growth happen. So I believe in like a healthy kind of number. So I would probably want to see what the consensus in the community is to decide that. But my initial kind of gut feeling is somewhere between like maybe like 10 to 20% of either revenue or net profits, something like that. Mm-hmm. I think would be pretty reasonable, and then pay that out to registered members, either monthly, semi-annually, or annually. I'm not sure how we would do it. And there's even been talk about us buying, using the EOS that we have to buy back eosDAC tokens and then pay out the dividends, or not really dividends, but the distribution back in eosDAC tokens. So that is also potentially, it's being talked about, but it's not really set in stone, or even really, there's not even a clear path if we're definitely going that way or not. So I think the community will have to weigh in on that and decide. But besides that, though, that's the big whale in the room, I guess you could say, is just that one distribution thing. But the other two that I really care about is basically making sure that the DAC stays really innovative. Like we're doing highly valuable, pushing the boundaries of DACs and really blazing trails. So innovation for sure, huge. I want to be funding stuff that is going to make a positive impact in both the technology and the social implications. And then also I think one of the biggest challenges for mass adoption is getting people to be aware of crypto, of EOS, of DACs in general. So I believe that at this stage of the game, a huge push for education and basically stuff that's going to build and foster more community growth and drive mass adoption. So that way EOS and eosDAC will be more valuable for everyone, because we'll be creating a stronger network. With these systems, communities are what really gives it the value. If you don't have community with a DAC, you don't have value, essentially. Like you do have like the assets, but you don't have what's really crucial is that community that is supporting you. If they just like, I was actually talking about this in my DAC talk today, that if you have, which is a podcast that we do with the community, where community members can kind of like jump in and ask questions on Discord. So yeah, feel free to jump in with that. But what I said in the DAC talk today was that customers for companies are what community is for a DAC. So if the customers leave a company, like they just abandon it because it's not fulfilling their needs, the community, that company has to either shift or die. Whereas with a DAC, it's like if you lose your community, you either have to get that community back or get a new community, or you die as well. Because DACs need that community to thrive. They need that community support. And that's what really makes DACs successful and strong. So yeah, those would be my main three kind of things that I would support. Yeah, I would support distributions that are healthy and make sense for the DAC. I would also support like innovation and also growth by doing education and community building kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
That totally does. It sounds like you have your head in the right space, and I'm sure our audience appreciates that. Cool, man. Thank you for answering that. While we're on exciting topics like this, maybe we can talk about some of the partnerships that have recently happened.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, so recently we got a partnership with Boyd that was announced today, actually. and kind of yesterday at the all hands meeting. So it's going to start off with them basically airdropping 4 million Boyd tokens on eosDAC registered members once we're launched as a DAC. So in a sense, like that's another incentive to actually launch the DAC, is that those 4 million tokens won't go on to members unless the DAC is actually like launched and live, right? So it's kind of a good incentive. If you want those Boyd tokens, you're going to need to to get the DAC launched up and running anyway. So it's kind of good timing. Just kind of worked out that way. Wasn't planned at all. But anyway, so what was I saying? So yeah, there's that partnership. And what's interesting about the Boyd partnership is they're giving us a team. So members, and I think just in general, I don't think it's closed to anyone. Anyone can kind of join the team. But what happens is if you join the team, one, you'll obviously get bonus rewards, which is kind of cool. There's going to be 875,000 tokens per month from Boyd up for grabs for people who are contributing their CPU power to the Boyd network. Yeah. So Boyd is essentially, it's kind of like, you know, how you would set up a mining rig or whatever, like cryptocurrency mining. With this, it's like you just download a software, or you can run it in the web app, but it's more efficient on the actual desktop client. And then you just flip a switch, and then boom, your CPU goes to work, and you start earning money essentially, which is kind of cool. And you can go into the settings and like you can tweak down your utilization to whatever you want it to be. So if you want to still be able to game in the background, you can just run it at like 20 or 30% utilization and you're good to go. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah, one of the good benefits for eosDAC too is that the team leader gets to decide where the compute resources go. So we could actually kind of in the future, probably not right now, but down the road, we could actually push those resources towards computing DAC type applications. So either running simulated models or machine learning, or maybe services. Who knows what it could be used for, but there's a lot of potential there. And then lastly, the really good option, or not an option, but the really good thing from this is actually the team itself gets about, I think it's between 5 or 20% of the, I think it's 5% of, but I'm not 100% sure because it's still pretty early. I think it's 5% of the total team's kind of, you could call it like compute power. So, so what that means is it's a revenue stream for eosDAC actually. So as the more and more people join the eosDAC Boyd team, they earn money, but then eosDAC also earns money, and then it could potentially distribute its revenue and part of its profit back to eosDAC token holders again. So like the registered members in the DAC. So it's pretty awesome. It gives a lot of really interesting possibilities that are opened up. And it's a pretty cool partnership. Boyd is actually in the roadmap planning to launch a DAC in 2020. So we might play a part in helping them do that.
Man, so cool. I love that there's so many options coming online for people to get involved without actually having to go purchase something on an exchange. Like I have a little brother, and I sent him, when I went to go visit him, he lives in Michigan right now with his dad. I sent him just, a little bit of Ethereum to play around with, and he was like, really excited about that. But, he knew that it was just kind of going to stay that balance because he doesn't really have a way to access more. He's pretty young, definitely under 18. So, I'm really excited to see options like this to where just anyone could just run their computer. They could join the eosDAC team and help a good cause, help bring computing power to scientists and earn some crypto that way. They can jump on Steam it, submit some good content, earn tokens that way. And pretty soon on EOS, you're going to have all kinds of cool games where you can just play video games and earn tokens that way. So that's one thing I'm really excited about for the community, is that they'll have multiple ways to actually earn crypto instead of, just having to send, earn fiat dollars to send that to an exchange and then get some that way. So
yeah,
that's a really cool partnership. I like that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that about the story about your brother. I really think that the next generation that's coming up, right, like they're going to be growing up where cryptocurrency is a thing, and when they hit their 20s or whatever, they're going to be like, oh yeah, they're going to be totally comfortable with cryptocurrency. So I think it's going to be a really interesting shift in our culture because kind of like, when adults didn't grow up with the internet, right? Like now our generation has grown up with the internet, so we're very comfortable with it. And it changes things quite a bit, what you see on the internet and what's socially, kind of brewing. So it'll be really interesting to see where cryptocurrency is in about 5-10 years from now. It should be quite different.
Like, yeah, it's going to be an exciting and bumpy road, both with eosDAC and just crypto in general. But I think we're both in it for the long haul. So
yeah, the bear market hasn't been too fun, obviously, but I don't feel any less confident that it's going to be a game-changing technology that's going to completely just change how we do business organizations and financial transactions, fintech, and then eventually it's going to change our whole society. It's so exciting. Yeah,
eventually the price will match, the fundamentals that are going on. Because I see people like you and just everyone else. I'm mostly in the EOS space right now. I think it's such a promising project, but I see the amount of work that's going in, and I don't personally think that it's necessarily correlating with the price quite yet. So I think at some point in the future it'll catch up. But yeah, bear market's not fun, but hopefully people can recognize that the fundamentals are still there, and there's a ton of people putting in work. So
yeah, that's the ultimate driver, really. Like the price will reflect the value that's created by the work that's done. So if a lot of really talented people are working around the clock, that's what's happening right now, then they're going to create value. And so it's only a matter of time for, the price to reflect that value.
Absolutely, man. I agree.
Yeah. But price discussion, it can get, I kind of brought up the bear market thing, and like people can get really obsessed with the price, and they lose sight of what is the problem that you're really solving. And if the problem is still being solved in a viable way, then you still have a solid product.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's so many people when they first get in, including myself, that goes to my personal story, get in because of the money, because one of their friends is bragging about some price-related thing. A lot of times the discussion around crypto doesn't start to, hey, did you know that there's, new communities forming, and this is how it goes. It's like, no, hey, did you see the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
It was here, and then it was there, and then so...
I think most people understand, profit and money, like people get excited about that, right? So that's why it makes sense that that's the first thing that people get drawn in by. It was weird because I wasn't like, I was interested in like how the value is going up, but I was really interested, like I knew about Bitcoin and I barely kind of touched it. It was once I heard about smart contracts and that you could build applications, and then I found out about DACs and DAOs that I started to really, like I couldn't stop thinking about crypto at that point, is because I was just so excited about what we could do with it, how it could change stuff. So
same here, man, which is why I've been kind of like obsessing with EOS, because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like one of the first platforms that can like bring this to fruition like sooner rather than later. Like it has the capacity for these organizations to actually run on there. So
yeah, exactly. Every time I do a transaction on EOS and then it instantly was confirmed and done, I just kind of smile to myself and then think back to when I was using Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's like it almost feels like the internet on a 56K modem versus cable, like DSL. Right, like Bitcoin has everything the 56K modem had except for that sound that they did. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure we could probably go on about this all day, so I'll just.
I think that's a good spot to wrap this up. It's been great to have you on the show today, Andrew.
Yeah, it's been great to be here.
You being here.
Thanks,
you mentioned earlier about DAC Talk. How can people join in on that discussion and keep up with you and what you have going on?
Yeah, so basically you just want to join our Discord server, which is just discord.io/eosDAC. And then once you're into the server, then you're basically just going to navigate to, there's channels on the left side that you can scroll through. And you just want to go to the open mic channel. And so I always broadcast, I think it's 3 p.m. UTC. I think because I think of it in my own time zone. My own time zone, it's 8 a.m. where I am. So I think that's 3 p.m. UTC. And that is Tuesdays, every Tuesday. So we do it for half an hour. Sometimes we go as long as an hour. And you can come in, you can talk to me, ask me questions either through text chat or voice chat. And yeah, it's a good time. So definitely come and join us.
Perfect. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Everything eosDAC, where I had the pleasure to interview Andrew Furmanczyk from the eosDAC launch team. If you like this content, please give it a rating on YouTube, iTunes, or wherever you might be listening, and leave a comment on what you would like to see in future episodes or any questions you would like to be answered. And with that, I'll see you all in the next episode.